Begin, letting some folks know that we are here. So if you are tuning in, we're giving some folks time to hop on and make sure that we are ready to go. And it looks like we are live. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bite Back Tour. My name is Levy Sun, and I'm the Communications Director here at San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. And I told a mosquito joke the other day, and people thought it was hilarious. I know, I'm a dad, so there needs to be some dad jokes in there. But coming at you today will be a lot less tacky jokes and a lot more good information about repellents. We're going to talk about those mosquito repellent devices. Like, do those bracelets and bug zappers really work, or do they work? We'll reveal what will save you time and money. In addition to that, let's say you are buying some repellents. Which ingredient is effective? Is DEET really the only thing out there? We'll show you some options. And also, what kind of plants are best at repelling mosquitoes? We'll discover the answer a little bit later. And also, if you know a teacher or have kids at home, what kind of summer materials are available to you to keep them entertained and learning at the same time? And Christian will be talking about that in a bit. So let's get into introductions. You already know who I am, and you're watching the Bite Back Tour on either Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or on our website. And we're gonna go around this Brady Bunch circle here to introduce each person. So we'll start off with Pablo.
Hi everyone, I'm the communication specialist here at the district. I also want to remind everybody of the exciting week we have coming up next week. It's National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. So we have a lot of content that will be going up next week, all things that you want to know about mosquitoes. So please keep an eye out for all of that. It's really exciting because you will see a lot of other posts from districts nationally and everything out there, and all the work that other districts do at the national level for mosquito control. So again, next week is National Mosquito Control Awareness Week, so keep an eye out for that.
All right, next we have Ali.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali Gaspar and I'm the Outreach Assistant here at the district.
Next we have Anita.
Hi everyone, I'm Anita. I am the Extra Help Outreach Assistant here at the district.
And as a special guest here, we have Christian.
Hi everyone, I'm Christian. I'm one of the education specialists here at the district.
All right, well, thank you all so much. And if you're watching, this is the Bite Back Tour with San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. And we're answering a lot of questions for families who have posed them to us over the past few years. And it's all about making sure that your family stays bite-free. And the biggest topic that we always get asked about is about repellents. So first up, repellents and the myths surrounding repellents. We've heard lots of different innovative ways of keeping mosquitoes away. And we'd like to present some of that to you and vet it almost like Mythbusters if these actually will work or not. So Pablo, show us the first set of possible myths regarding repellents. First up, we have our popular trio, the three amigos of myths that always pop up together. And the first one is the bug zapper. Does anyone on the team here want to talk about whether or not bug zappers work?
I can talk a little bit about the bug zappers. I know they're extremely popular, and you see them pop up almost every summer, especially at summer barbecues, or I see them now more at the stores more than before. And I always cringe a little bit because you hear the zapping, but most of the time they're not actually mosquitoes that are getting zapped. They're actually more beneficial insects like moths that are getting zapped, because mosquitoes are not attracted to the light. Mosquitoes are attracted to CO2, what we're breathing out. So the light is actually attracting all the beneficial insects that you want in your yard versus mosquitoes that you don't want in your yard. So unfortunately, you're killing off more of the good guys as opposed to the bad guys in your yard. Levy, do you want to add anything more to our bug zapper faux friends here?
Yeah, if you want to increase biodiversity and really think about having a healthy environment around your home for you and your family, the bug zapper is probably not the best tool. It does kill a lot of bugs. So if you're really out to get all the bugs, maybe that will work for you. But even then, it doesn't impact much on the biting that you'll receive from mosquitoes. All right, next up, we have candles. Citronella candles is a popular one. Does anyone want to take a crack at that? If citronella candles actually work?
I can talk a bit about that. From personal experience, citronella candles do not protect bites. They do protect that general area, but when you have other like natural factors like wind, or if somebody accidentally knocks it out, or just depending on which way the wind is blowing, you might completely miss you. I have a friend who always throws these outdoor movie nights, and she always sets up her little candles, creates the ambiance, and she's always convinced that they're going to set up and protect us from mosquitoes. But in reality, it's just protecting that one area. So you would have to have a million candles to protect yourself at all points, just to make sure that you're protected. And it unfortunately doesn't really work in that sense.
And if you're really bothered by and many of us are, by the Aedes mosquitoes, also known as ankle biters, as their name suggests, unless you're putting a candle around your ankles, it's really not going to help you much, because candles are obviously well above the waist and sitting on the countertop. So a mosquito will just fly underneath and bite you up. All right, next up, we have bracelets. Oh, yes.
I'll actually add one more thing to the citronella candles, which I got a lot of questions about when we worked the LA County Fair, is the marketing of these candles have created this illusion that these candles will create this invisible force field around us that we tend to think will happen. And just like Ali was explaining, that is not the case. It does not create this invisible force field. So don't listen to those cool photos that you see that when you light this candle, this invisible net will be surrounding you. That is not the case.
And speaking of invisible force fields, we'll talk more about other devices that you may have seen at stores that will create so-called fields of protection around you. All right, moving on to bracelets. Those bracelets you see that are sometimes at the checkout stand for those impulse buying purchases, those are really popular too. And I've seen them a lot. And I've actually tried it out, where I took one of the bracelets that I bought from the store, and I put it on my wrist and I stuck my arm into a cage full of mosquitoes. And I'll tell you right now, it worked really, really well around my wrist. But the mosquitoes ended up biting me all over my hand, my fingers, and my forearm. So if you're looking to only protect your wrist from mosquito bites, this is the device for you. But if you're looking to completely keep yourself bite-free from mosquitoes, you're probably gonna have to buy a couple hundred of these and ring them up your arm and your fingers and your ankles to maybe see a difference. So they do work, but there are very, very big limitations to these bracelets. And because some of them are infused with the natural ingredients like help me out here, that's like citronella or the essential oils.
Oh, essential.
Yeah, like all of them are infused with essential oils. They don't last very long outside of the packaging. So that's the other downside to some of these bracelets. They're almost one-time use in many cases. All right, let's see the next batch of myths. And while we switch to the next slide, we are watching the Bite Back tour, and we're talking about repellents. What works, what doesn't work, or maybe does work, but not very well. So here's another duo that we hear often. First up are dryer sheets. Anyone want to take a stab at whether or not dryer sheets work?
Talk a bit about that. I got a comment from a resident one time saying that they played golf and that all they did was tuck some dryer sheets into their pockets or into their hat, underneath their hat, and that they were protected. And their reasoning was because that they said that they masked their scent. And that's not true. It might mask your scent a little bit, but mosquitoes are not after our scent. So there's a little bit of a misconception there. They're actually after our CO2 and our warmth. So the warmth of our bodies and the CO2 that we breathe out. So regardless whether you smell good or bad, they're still going to come after you if you've got that right scent for them and the stuff that they're attracted to it.
Yeah, nothing like being bitten up while smelling like fresh linen. All right. Vapor rub. So there's different variations of this. Vicks is obviously a popular brand, but just those decongestant vapor / chest rubs, we hear that a lot, that apparently that really helps. Anyone want to take a crack at that one?
I think this is a long urban myth that vapor rub cures all and is an end all for everything. It unfortunately also does not work unless you want to smell like vapor rub the whole time. Or if you lather your entire body in a thick layer, mosquitoes wouldn't want to land on you. And I can only assume that would be very uncomfortable, and it would also keep people away from you. So if you want to maintain that 6 feet of distance from other people, by all means, cover yourself in vapor rub, but definitely not recommended and not effective against mosquito bites.
I can only imagine someone dousing themselves with vapor rub head to toe and transferring that everywhere they touch. That just sounds disgusting. Anyway.
I was also going to add, I know people that put vapor rub after they've been bitten, and they say that that feels like that helps with the biting. But then again, you've already been bitten, right? And we're worried about the diseases that mosquitoes carry. So if you've already been bitten, right, you don't want to wait until you get the bite to then do something. We want to prevent it.
That's right. That's a good point. By the time you need to solve the issue of bites, it's already a little too late. All right, next up, what's our next set of myths, Pablo? And if you're watching, this is the Bite Back Tour. We're talking about bite-free families. And our biggest topic today is about repellents and the myths surrounding some of the devices out there. Yes, the shield of protection. We hear that a lot. We hear that something like that visual Pablo was describing, how you set this out there and suddenly you are bite-free. We can go around this series of photos. We'll start with the top left with the mosquito coils. There is definitely, like a citronella candle, advantages to using those because they do keep insects away directly in front of it or around it. But once the breeze takes hold of your area, of your patio or your balcony, it essentially moves that effectiveness downwind. So, and again, this is usually set up on a countertop or somewhere elevated. So mosquitoes can just fly right underneath and bite your ankles and you wouldn't even know. Next one down right below that one are clip-on fans that sit at our waist level. Does anyone want to take a crack at that, whether it works or not?
I can talk briefly about that. I've also many experiences trying on the different methods of repellent. This one is a clip-on fan that allegedly will blow out some repellent. And in that one area, I'm sure it works, but again, similar to what we've been talking about, it does not protect the entire body. And usually people will put the clip-ons maybe on a backpack or on their some pocket or jacket little area where you can clip it in, or even your hip where the belt is at. And that one area may be protected, but again, it might not protect the entire body.
Exactly. And then moving to the images on the right-hand side, we have these devices that they use some kind of a little canister to help them refill, and they just heat up some kind of rod, or it creates some kind of chemical reaction and emits some kind of chemical that will then create this force field around you. And I can tell you that many households that we have visited in the past few years have actually picked up these kind of devices, and they are quite popular. The only thing to really think about here is that just like the coils, just like the fan, just like the candles, they are very, very limited, especially when you have a lot of wind and breeze that comes through there. But also read the packaging carefully. One thing that people don't realize on this packaging, that it does say to keep away from anywhere where you may be eating or might be exposed to food. Some of these devices, depending on what material they use to drive mosquitoes away, actually puts out a small volume of pesticide into the air. So if you're having it next to your food, you might be consuming some pesticide. And that's why it also said to keep these devices away from waterways like drains and gutters, because that pesticide will go into the drain and wash downstream where it can contaminate things down that way. So really be careful with what you choose here. There's lots of quick fixes that people are selling us, and these do work to a certain point, but know the limitations of your own patio and your yard and where you spend time outside. Some of this may work for you, some of it not, but just know that there are limitations. Now, there's one thing that's surefire, that will work no matter where you are. whether you're outside in your balcony, on your patio, in your yard, or even camping. And that's to use repellents, mosquito repellents that go on exposed skin. And there are 4 ingredients here that is shown on the screen that are proven to be effective and registered with the EPA and recommended by the CDC. So we'll go down the list from left to right. First up is picaridin. It's definitely a lot more popular. It's sometimes infused with certain lotions out there that are sold by certain companies, and it's definitely rising in popularity. The next one is oil of lemon eucalyptus, or sometimes the label will call it PMD, and it, as the name suggests, it derives from lemon eucalyptus. And this is definitely the quote unquote natural repellent that is very popular and also proven to work very effectively. Next, we have our gold standard of DEET. DEET still remains king in many realms of people's lives and lifestyles of when they go outside and use repellent. And unlike 10 plus years ago or 5 plus years ago, DEET is actually much more amenable to more people now because they've started to create certain types of DEET in a way that it smells better and it goes on your skin. It doesn't feel so oily. So it does have some benefits now for some families to use. And finally, on the far right is IR 3535. This is also available out there, and it is not used as often or sold as often as the other ones, but it is available for use. Now, in terms of how these are all packaged, because as we know, when we go buy repellent, we're inundated by all the different kinds of brands out there. So there are different ways that these brands or companies will package up repellent. And on the screen, you'll see some examples of that. My favorite one to go with is just a standard spray bottle, which is shown by the oil lemon eucalyptus. It's not an aerosol, it's not a wipe, but it's just simple spray on your skin and on your hands. And then there are some other different variations of packaging that are aerosol sprays, lotion. Pablo, is that one in the middle with the picaridin? Is that the lotion? Yeah, that is the lotion one.
It's a lotion.
And of course, we have the wipes, which are definitely very handy if you're out hiking, traveling, etc. If you're watching right now, this is the Bite Back Tour. We're talking about bite-free families. And the big topic right now is all about repellent and the myths. And now we learn about what kind of ingredients are effective and how they are packaged. But let's talk about the packaging, especially if you're traveling. So many of us are planning to travel, whether it's a road trip or maybe somewhere international. But I'm going to pitch this over to Ali to talk a little bit more about how we can manage or how we can stay bite-free while traveling.
Thanks, Levy. I would like to give compliments to myself for these photos as I just brought them back from my trip to Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic. And I actually have to disagree with you, Levy. Earlier, you said your favorite was the spray. My favorite now is actually the repellent wipes. They were really easy to carry around, and I kid you not, they've come in handy multiple times also since I've gotten back. So even on the daily and on the go, they fit anywhere, in your car, in your purse, even in my work backpack. Like they're just amazing. And actually they came in handy during all of our like family festivities. And I traveled for a wedding, so they also came in handy in even hard to reach places like my clutch or like my husband's pocket while we were at the wedding. And one thing that we really wanted to focus on was staying safe during this trip. In addition to staying safe from COVID, we also wanted to stay safe from mosquito bites and mosquito-borne diseases. Dominican Republic is known to have some occasional outbreaks of mosquito-borne disease. So we did our research just before we left. So we checked the different websites, the country website, the CDC travel advisory, and we made sure we were prepared. So we were able to pack the mosquito repellent wipes in our carry-ons. I know some airplanes and the guidelines might be a little bit different depending where you're going. So if you want to take like a big bottle or an aerosol spray, you may have to check that in. But the mosquito repellent wipes for us, we bought a few of them. So we were able to use them immediately when we got off the plane and able to wait until we were able to buy an actual like repellent bottle. And an interesting thing too is wherever you're staying to kind of know where you can get the repellent bottles. Unfortunately for us, we only had one option to get them, which was at the hotel. And the hotel, they only provided a specific percentage of the repellent in propellant ingredient inside the bottle. What I mean by that is that there's a percentage on the front of every bottle, and it'll tell you the ingredient, which Levy listed earlier, which was oil of lemon eucalyptus, picaridin, DEET, and IR 3535. But it also mentions the percentage. And the percentage is just letting you know how long it's going to last. So for example, this one is 7%, and the one that I found at the hotel was like 7%. It's only going to last you a little bit. So you're going to have to constantly reapply according to the directions on the label. My repellent wipes had a higher percentage, so it was good to go. And it was really helpful passing them out to family members and also giving them to kids. And now when traveling with kids, it's already a challenge in itself, but when you're able to protect them with the repellent wipes, it was really easy for them. And because they're much smaller in size, they were actually able to share. So we were able to use those wipes for longer as well. And with the kids, they actually like the repellent wipes. I guess maybe the sense of spray scares them sometimes. So in my experience, it's been better for them to be more receptive to having mosquito repellent put on them. And they were able to, wash their hands after, that way it wouldn't get in their eyes or in their mouth, and they were good to go. As you can see on the picture on the right, even though we were by the beach and it was really beautiful, there were some areas with dense vegetation where the mosquitoes were hiding out. And every now and then, they would definitely come out to get us. At any point of the day, they were coming out. They bit up the bride, they bit up my sister-in-law, and even my husband on his feet. And nobody saw them coming. Nobody felt them landing. It was just after the fact, people would see. It's an Indian wedding that we went to, so they would see on their bellies, like where the skirt and the top don't meet. They would see that they got bit up or that their feet were all covered in bites. So not only was it uncomfortable for those who didn't wear repellent, but they do run the risk of getting sick with some vector-borne disease.
I do want to ask you, Ali, when you're applying the repellent wipes, did you also apply it on your face? Because they also, we always just talk about our arms and legs, but we never talk about the face.
That's true. Yeah. So you apply it to any exposed skin. So that includes your face as well. But you would not spray it directly on you or wipe on your eyes or your mouth. You definitely want to avoid those. And it does tell you that on the label. So you just want to follow the directions on the label. And then with kids, you want to apply the repellent onto their face and the rest of their skin yourself. So don't let the kids do it. Definitely do it as an adult. Good question. Yeah.
Now, in terms of applying it, what's the best way to apply on ourselves and each other? Because you touched a little bit on that, but let's say we have a spray bottle or aerosol can, and we're spending our time outdoors at a barbecue. What should we do in terms of applying, or how to apply?
Yeah. So you want to apply it by spraying on, if you're using a repellent bottle. You just want to apply it to exposed skin, and then you want to rub it in. You don't want to do 10 sprays on one arm, for example. That's very excessive. It'll tell you on the label, but just a couple of sprays and then evenly apply it would help. And especially if you're going to be wearing sunscreen, if you're outdoors, you want to make sure that you put your sunscreen on first and then put your repellent second. You want your repellent to be your top layer. That way mosquitoes may come and may land, but they will not bite you because it's your top layer for protecting you on top.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Now, if you're watching, this is the Bite Back Tour. This is with San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. And today we're talking about bite-free families. If you're watching, you're probably watching on Facebook and YouTube and on our website. If you're watching on Twitter, the title of this live stream is actually wrong. We're not at the LA County Fair. We're actually here in studio talking about repellents and also how families can stay bite-free. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop it into the chat anywhere you are watching, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next topic. But just to ask you all, what insect do you think is the best at keeping the peace? A diplognat. So speaking of gnats, those are seen a lot around here in San Gabriel Valley. And we want to talk a little bit about mosquito imposters. There are a lot of different insects that we see in our urban environments, and gnats are definitely one of them. We also have crane flies too. For those of you who aren't familiar with what crane flies look like, they are these large looking mosquitoes. They're definitely bigger than the size of a quarter, and they will freak you out no matter how much you're aware of them, especially if they bounce around your face and your porch light. But they are completely harmless. They don't have any biting mouth parts. They drink nectar like butterflies, and they are a great food source for birds. What we should be more concerned with are the mosquitoes. And if you look at the photo on the screen, the actual size of a mosquito is quite tiny. It can literally sit on the tip of your thumb, whereas the crane fly's legs and will actually drape down past your tip of your thumb.
Maybe
Midges are some, yeah.
a question about crane flies. Some people know them as mosquito hawks. Do they eat mosquitoes?
Oh, I wish they did, Pablo. I've heard them called mosquito hawks as well. And I used to also believe that they ate mosquitoes. I would have an uncle who would grab these crane flies out of the air and throw it into our tents. And I would scream in terror every time. But he swears up and down that these crane flies or mosquito hawks will eat the mosquitoes in my tent if they come inside. Well, all it did was give me nightmares when I go camping. So that's about it. Now, in terms of midges, you'll see a lot of them. Midges are about the same size as crane flies, especially if you're not really paying attention to them. The difference between midges and mosquitoes here in our cities is that midges tend to swarm in higher numbers, whereas mosquitoes do not tend to swarm in our cities here in Southern California. Now, if you go up north, say Alaska, you'll definitely see mosquitoes swarming in high numbers, but here in our cities in Southern California, we don't tend to see swarming in our neighborhoods. So these are some imposters you may find, and it's good to know that midges don't bite, crane flies don't bite, but the mosquitoes actually do. But now moving on, let's talk a little bit more about where we can find these mosquitoes. And we'll keep this pretty short because most of you already know where to find them. But for those of you who don't, it's a good idea to know where to find these mosquitoes growing around our properties. And it comes down to talking about mosquito sources. Ali, why don't you take this one and talk a little bit more about where people can find mosquito sources. And I think, Pablo, we have a couple slides that will showcase some of that.
Thanks, Levy. As the slide says, pretty much anything that can hold water. And this can include just common things in our backyards like dog bowls or pet bowls, trash that's left outside, recycle bins that don't have the top cover, even the recycle bottles. If you don't have a cap on it and it can collect water, even something as small as a bottle cap to something as large as an unmaintained pool. The hard to miss ones are the things that you would never think of, like your fountains. They're supposed to have water, but it depends on the type of water. You want the water to be fresh, to be clean, especially if you have like a bird bath. You don't want your beautiful birds coming to visit you to drink disgusting water. You want them to drink fresh water. So a little quick tip to keep your fountain clean is just to put your hose on power and just rinse it out and make sure that they have fresh water for the birds. And also like a lot of unused containers that collect outside. We're all guilty of that one. So just, making sure that we put it all away to some place where it will stay dry, or if you don't need it, then you can just toss it or donate it. And it can prevent water from collecting on your property. That way you can have a more bite-free summer and then stay bite-free year round.
And Ali, I just want to add to that a question that we actually got today on Instagram was, what do I do with water that I have to leave out for, my pet or livestock? Obviously, they need water in order to drink during the day. What we recommend is changing out that water at least once a week because mosquitoes can grow from egg to flying adult in as short as 5 to 7 days. As long as that water is being changed out, water for pets or livestock should be okay.
That's a great question.
All right. Thank you for the insight on that. So remember to get rid of the stagnant water because it doesn't take very long for mosquitoes to grow. Pablo, don't we have a section, or did you have some live mosquitoes to show us too?
Oh, yes, I do. I have my friends hanging out with me here. Let me see if I can get them here. Let's see. So we can all take a look at, so we're all familiar with what there they are. And that's how small a mosquito is compared to a coin there. So that's a mosquito larva. So like we say, we're all familiar with what adult mosquitoes look like. We see them flying around, we hear them flying around, but most people don't realize that mosquitoes come from stagnant water, meaning water that sits still. So if you see these little guys swimming around in there, he's probably playing possum right now, but you see him swimming around in stagnant water, that means you have mosquito larvae. And one thing I always like to emphasize with residents when they do see mosquito larvae in stagnant water is if you have 50 larvae swimming in water or 50 flying adults, it's much easier to eliminate that source versus trying to kill the adult mosquitoes. Sure, you can kill the adult mosquitoes, but if you still have that stagnant water, that cycle is going to continue and you're going to get adult mosquitoes in as short as 5 to 7 days. So that's why we continue to always emphasize eliminating stagnant water to kill off the mosquitoes. And the other thing that I also like to point out, people ask, do I need to dump out the water somewhere? Do I need to stomp on it or anything like that? As long as you dump out that water on something dry, even just on the grass or the cement, anywhere, we're in a drought, so I would recommend pouring out that stagnant water in the grass. Once it dries up, the mosquito larvae will die out. They need the stagnant water in order to live and survive and complete their life cycle. So if they're out of that water, the mosquitoes will die.
Perfect. Yeah, speaking of being in a drought and water restrictions coming up, it's really important to not only look around your yard for stagnant water, but look at your yard at the plants there. We talk a lot about repellents, getting rid of mosquitoes or preventing mosquitoes from biting us, to the type of repellents we can use, to then what you can do around the home for stagnant water. But what about the plants? We hear a lot too about people buying repellent plants. Let's start talking about that, because that's important. Since we are in a drought, we need to re-landscape sometimes or audit our yards and determine what kind of plants we really want. And most people actually want plants that can repel mosquitoes. And one thing to note is that there really isn't a specific plant that actively repels mosquitoes. And things that are grown in yards such as lavender or citronella, especially citronella, don't sit there and shoo mosquitoes away with their leaves or with their scent. In fact, to really get mosquitoes to repel from, say, a citronella plant, you actually have to go out there almost every day or before you go outside to spend time outdoors and squeeze or extract the oils from each leaf. So before you head outside or before you settle down in your chair or at your barbecue, you're going to have to go around to each of the citronella plants and just squeeze out squeeze the leaves to extract the scent so that mosquitoes can be repelled. The downside with that is obviously the time, but also mosquitoes do have wings, unfortunately, and it can fly right over that plant and land where it wants to, where you're sitting or standing. Lavender is also quite popular to use. Again, they don't actively repel, but what these kind of plants do have in common with some other plants is that they don't create a dense, humid, hot environment. It's also shaded from the heat, direct heat. And the other plants that I really want folks to really understand are California native plants. And these are critical in not only ensuring that we have more bite-free yards, but also it helps us save water. And many of these California native plants can be more fire resistant, especially for those of you living in the foothills of San Gabriel Valley. You might want to take note of using California native plants instead of pure green grass lawns. Pablo's showing some examples of California native yards that have taken up these California native plants, and it does beat that misconception that California native plants are ugly. They don't thrive well, when in fact they do really, really well. And they're not like dense vegetation like ivy or dense bushes, and the fact that the leaves aren't huge and waxy, and they provide lots of shade and contain humidity, which is perfect for mosquitoes. One thing to know about mosquitoes is that they are really bad at regulating their body temperature. So when it's really hot or when it's really cold, they don't like it. They can also die off. So in our San Gabriel Valley heat that we get almost year round, mosquitoes will look for places that have a lot of ivy. They'll look for places that have a lot of dense vegetation that looks like Jurassic Park on your yard, and they will seek refuge there. So even though you have no stagnant water, you can actually get bit anyway because you're providing shade and refuge for the adult mosquitoes flying around. So to solve that issue, one thing to look long-term is to plant more California native plants. Anyone else want to fill in on that?
To add to that, California native plants will also attract more of our beneficial insects, the insects we want to see in our yards, like butterflies or hummingbirds or bumblebees, all the insects that we do like to see. I have definitely noticed that as I've been paying attention more to California native plants. Yards that have California native plants, there's so many beneficial insects flying around there and pollinators as well, which is so much nicer to see than a mosquito flying around.
Yeah, and I would just add that there's thousands of California native plants, right? So if there's some that you like, maybe you think they are a little ugly, and that's okay. Look for other ones. There are thousands to choose from. So there's some really great resources that you can, find online for different types of California native plants and see what would work well in your yard and what attracts your eye, right? Because you do want your yard to look nice, but don't limit yourself to just like, the couple that you might see out on the street. Great points. And this takes us to a question that we get normally at this time is, well, what is mosquito control doing? Because there's clearly a responsibility on our part to service you, not to just educate you, but we also have a commitment and obligation to control for disease risk and any mosquito-borne diseases that may occur in your communities. So while everyone is managing their private properties and making sure their properties stay bite-free, we're out there monitoring for any incidents of diseases or any mosquitoes that may carry pathogens or germs, such as West Nile virus, St. Louis encephalitis, and even some more recent introductions of, say, Zika or yellow fever, dengue fever that we've seen in places like Florida or elsewhere in the world. So we're monitoring for stuff like that and making sure that we respond appropriately. So we do have traps set up in every single city in San Gabriel Valley, and we send those mosquitoes out for testing. In addition to that, any kind of dead bird you find in your community, if you report that to the Dead Bird Hotline, if you just Google or search California Dead Bird Hotline, you can submit it online or through a phone call about this dead bird and we can pick it up. Reason why that's important is because dead birds can serve as almost a canary or a heads up that West Nile virus may be circulating in your community. So the sooner we know, the more we can allocate resources to any areas that may need more of our staff to address mosquito issues there. And finally, we did tease this a little bit earlier, but if you know a teacher or you have kids at home this summer and you want to give them something a little more enriching but still fun and they learn a lot, we do have some materials that are actually available to you. I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Christian, who will talk more about that. Sure. So so if you visit our vectoreducation.org website, and I do see we have a QR code for it, you can actually find some free activities that you can print out. So it would be found in the self-guided curriculum and under the Little Champions section. And there's a lot of really fun things and it's specified by the grade. So, if you have a kindergartner, you can go and check out to see what is good for kindergarten. So that's a really good resource. For our EcoHealth Vector Education, we also have other programs. Can I get the next slide? Awesome. Yeah. So if you are an educator, you can actually go onto our website, again, vectoreducation.org, and you can click on the Book Now button. And we have a number of programs like our citizen science programs, our classroom programs that you can also check out as well. As well as if you, run like an after school program or something, we have programs for you too. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is our Train the Trainer. It is a free teacher training for middle school teachers in the San Gabriel Valley. And it's taking place on Wednesday, July 20th and Thursday, July 21st. And it trains teachers how to facilitate the Operation Mosquito Grid, which is our citizen science program, from their own classrooms with their middle school students. And so through Grid, what students do is middle school students clear their yards of mosquitoes. They use specialized lures to capture Aedes mosquito eggs, like you saw one of our surveillance members a couple slides ago. And they gather the data, and then they actually submit the evidence to us as public health data. And so in this training, what teachers are going to learn is they're going to learn about mosquito biology. They're going to learn about surveillance and control strategies, and also how to identify Aedes mosquito eggs. So on July 20th, the training is going to be on Zoom, and we have an excellent lineup of speakers that I'm super excited about. And then on the 21st, we have an in-person lab day where we're going to roll up our sleeves and have fun looking down the microscope and seeing really cool things. So what is the benefit of a teacher taking a little bit of their time, right, from summer, precious summer, to do this course? So Cal Poly Pomona is actually offering 3 upper division units at the completion of the course, and that could potentially count towards salary points. And for students, this is like an amazing opportunity to practice their science skills and see what's growing in their backyards. So I'm sure your students would really love that as well. So if you would like to sign up, you can go on to this website, vectoreducation.org/teacher training, and sign up before July 6th. And we hope to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Christian. And now we end the episode. It's the Bite Free families. If you're watching, this is the Bite Back tour where we're talking about repellents, mosquito imposters, how to manage the vegetation around your home. And also, if you have kids or know an educator, there's some resources for you. And if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or our website. Apologies to those watching on Twitter. We have the wrong name on there. We're not at the LA County Fair. We're live from our studios talking about mosquitoes. Now we head over to closing remarks. I'll go ahead and just go around our circle here. Let me change the view so you can all see us. And let's go around the circle, and for closing remarks, we'll start with Ali.
Thank you guys for watching. I just want to say to make sure to always travel with repellent. And even when you're just on the go daily, make sure that you're applying repellent correctly, and that you're always prepared. We want to make sure that you guys stay safe, and that you stay healthy and stay bite free. Thank you so much.
All right. Anita, any parting words for our viewers?
I just want to add, like, in addition to applying repellent, you should always, since it's the summer, it's important to wear sunscreen. And yeah.
Oh yeah, good point. Because if you're wearing sunscreen and repellent, make sure you put sunscreen first, let that dry out, and then put on repellent on top. Don't reverse it. And also, those products that combine repellent and sunscreen are not as effective. It's very convenient. Remember, we are marketed convenience, which is great, but they're not as effective as doing it separately. Good point, Anita. Pablo.
Yeah, thanks again for everyone watching. And one thing I always like to emphasize is we talked about the 4, using one of the 4 active ingredients when it comes to mosquito repellent, which is picaridin, IR3535, DEET, or oil of lemon eucalyptus. And people always ask us, well, which one should I use? Which one is better? The best mosquito repellent to use is the one that you use. It literally just comes down to personal preference, which one you like to use. As long as you're using one of those 4, you're using effective mosquito repellent. So that's always my helpful tip. And again, a reminder, next week is National Mosquito Awareness Week. So keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. And then finally, from our special guest, Christian.
Yes, well, I want to thank you all for having me here today. This was fun. And then I also just want to encourage teachers and educators of any kind to who are in the San Gabriel Valley to check out EcoHealth Vector Education. We have plenty of programs, and we'd love to, hang out, have fun, and provide educational opportunities for your students. So we hope to hear from you soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And with that, that does end our episode of the Bite Back Tour, Bite Free Families. Thank you so much for joining us and watching. If you're watching in the future, if you have any questions, definitely drop in a question to us from our website. We're happy to answer them. In the meantime, stay healthy and stay bite free.